welcome in Fresh Takes, Russo and Felice. I am Paul Russo. Across from me, as always, man, myth, legend himself, Nick Felice. Nick, how are you doing? Different morning view for us than we usually do, but nothing wrong with that.
Good, Paul. I hope you're doing well.
Excellent.
This is a special 9:30 Wednesday episode, but this is a special episode because it's one of our favorite episodes of the year.
Mm-hmm.
Usually, I think we preview college football one week, and then we preview the NFL the next week. But, I won't be here next week, so we're getting both this week, and we got a special guest on the show today.
Yeah, we do. You're on vacation next week. Not to spoil too much, but very appreciative that Nate Sharman joining us once again here. You might recognize him if you're an FL1 person from his hot new podcast, Out of Bounds.
Yeah.
So
Paul was able to make an appearance on it last night, too, which is always awesome. Able to give us a little bit of F1 news and how it relates to...
I was about to say, if I can't throw in my own motorsports contributions to cross over to other sports, then what's my purpose here?
Usually he fills in with a Ricky Fowler pick, but no tournament this week in the PGA. But glad to be here with you guys, Nick, Paul. Always fun watching you guys do this show, and pleasure to be here once again.
Yeah, so good to have you on, Nate. Nick, rather. Dealing with multiple N's over here. So obviously college football, it's going to be kind of the de facto first part of this, and then NFL is going to be the de facto second part. With Nick being out next week, we're gonna try and tackle both. We're still planning to do a show next week. Not like we won't be here. Well, I won't anyway. I'll be here. So we'll figure something out. Either way, we got a lot of momentum going right now, so we're gonna keep it going. So let's jump right in. College football, or technically week O has already happened. National championship game occurred with Vanderbilt and Hawaii. So greetings to everybody who was like me and a sicko who stayed for it.
Tough outcome if you're Hawaii +8 better.
Yeah, I got him at +9.5, so that really
enough.
didn't make a difference. But anyway, week one is officially upon us. A lot of big games, but a lot of storylines going into this college football season. I think you can make the case that this is college football's most important year yet, at least in our lifetime / generation. At this point, there's a lot of storylines going on. I don't want to jump to those yet. I think I want to start with the actual stuff on the field. A lot of the traditional powers are being picked again, right? The ones that we're usually seeing. Kind of already shoehorning in, and justifiably so to me, Alabama, Georgia, obviously defending national champs, right? And Ohio State's the other one. And a lot of people have kind of left the fourth team up for debate as to who could be in the college football playoff at that point. To me, and I'm not too sure how you guys feel, although I'm definitely the more college football person here and stuff like that. And obviously we'll discuss our favorite teams, Syracuse and Notre Dame. But to me, a team like Ohio State doesn't really excite me this year. In fact, I think they're a tad bit overrated, to be honest. The defense is not going to look the same this year. They lost a lot. I think you saw some interesting transfers out of there, for example, during the offseason that I don't necessarily point or paint an indicative light upon, say, a guy like Ryan Day, but it's interesting as to why you would want to transfer out of Ohio State when you're the de facto next person up to be an all-star starter, caliber player. And we saw that happen at multiple positions, quarterbacks with obviously Ewers, and you had a couple wideouts do the same and stuff like that. But, to that end, it's understandable, right? I think the Big Ten is, I wouldn't say weak, but, one of the week O matchups was obviously Nebraska and Northwestern, and Nebraska, who had a lot of hype to get this year going, lived certainly down to it, as I would call it. That being said, for me, like the Big Ten, I'd rather roll and risk a team like Michigan than I would Ohio State. Obviously we'll discuss a little bit. One of the marquee matchups this week is Notre Dame versus Ohio State. A lot of people are just hammering Ohio State, let alone the spread. I think it's now up to, I want to say I saw it at 14 officially. But, to me, even at 13.5 or 13 where I've seen it, I'm all over Notre Dame, period. I really think they have a good chance. Obviously, we'll touch on them like I mentioned a little bit, but and then obviously you look at the SEC, kind of your typical powers are going to be in play there. I don't foresee anything major probably shifting from the Alabama Georgia stuff, at least this year anyway. Could be wrong. I think, teams like Arkansas, Ole Miss, I don't want to buy into their hype train too much, but Tennessee is definitely better than they were last year. And you have teams teams that are always going to play you tough, like Florida, South Carolina, LSU. No matter what the situation is, Auburn, right? Kentucky is a team that's a lot of people are hyping up that I think they're going to see a lot of the same this year out of them, whether it's like a 9-3 or type scenario or something like that. So, a lot of stuff to look there. Obviously, what's going to happen with the Pac-12? Their traditional powers with USC and UCLA. This is their last year in the Pac-12, but you got Lincoln Riley out with the Trojans now, and a lot of players who came with them. They're a team that, despite all the stuff surrounding them, I tend to keep an eye on. And we haven't really touched the ACC yet or the Big 12. I don't expect too much out of either one of them. Obviously, Clemson is going to play tough. I mean, NC State, I know, is a team that a lot of people are in love with. In the Big 12, I mean, Texas, for whatever reason, I know the reason, but for whatever reason, is getting a ton of hype as well again. So, college football's back.
Yeah, you mentioned that you're not high on Ohio State, it's not surprising. You always seem like there's that team that's like ranked up in the top 4 and doesn't have a good season. I think we saw that with LSU the year after Joe Burrow.
Right.
We saw it Clemson last year, I think, was probably in the top 4, and then they didn't have a great, well, to their standards, they didn't have a great year.
Mm-hmm.
But, it's going to be an interesting year, that's for sure. Interesting test for Notre Dame. It's always nice to have a big game the first week, because even if you lose that, you play well, as long as you win out the rest of the way, because Notre Dame tends to have more of an easier schedule being independent, and so you could still get in with a loss on Ohio State. It's a lot of pressure to win out, but it's going to be an interesting year with the conference realignments. It's going to be a little awkward for some of these games when you get like the USC, UCLA heading over to Colorado game or something like that, or the Texas-Oklahoma game, heading to Texas Tech one week. It's just, these other schools are not going to be happy that they're leaving their conference. So that's going to be a little bit of a, handling. It's going to be an adjustment period for these next years until they eventually leave. But, it's going to be, it's probably going to be some of the similar teams in the playoffs again this year, as we usually see. Your Georgias, your Alabamas are definitely the front runners for the playoffs. Hopefully we'll see some more teams sneak up. Don't know if that's going to be Syracuse, but
Probably not.
They play who week 1? Louisville?
Yeah.
At Louisville?
No, so you're up at the dome here.
So you're going.
I'm not going.
You're not going.
I can't go. I work at the track Saturday night.
So it's a Saturday night game.
Yeah, 8 p.m. kickoff.
JMA Wireless Dome.
They're like, what, a 4 point?
Brutal.
I know you can't bet New York's college
Correct.
sports here, but
Correct.
like a 4-point underdog or something like that.
Yeah, it's being pretty generous to me. I could be wrong. I don't know. We'll touch more on that, I feel like, with that in a little bit, but yeah.
But yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah. Nate, I know you tend to lean more on the pro side of things, but what are your thoughts kind of, because you come with a pretty unique perspective here a little bit. I'll tee it up a little bit, right, with the golf situation going on right now. You kind of see multiple stuff, obviously, with the PGA and LIV, and definitely not exactly similar in nature, right, but it all kind of surrounds, right, this new money type stuff. Obviously, the college football situation, it's media stuff. So do you have any thoughts kind of how this might play out through the whole year, just kind of in general with, look, news might just break that one week that, and I'm going to use this team as an example, even though I don't think they'll go anywhere. But look at a team like Syracuse. Say Syracuse is up and leaves for the Big 12 or something like that mid-season, right? Obviously, it's happening with golf, so I don't know if you have any thoughts kind of along the line with that or anything like that.
Yeah, I'm interested to see next year. I know it'll happen a little bit more with USC and UCLA going over there and playing in the Big Ten. I just think it's going to be so funny to look at, at 9 a.m. they're playing a game. And, you take a look at Big Ten football, right? That acquaints to football in the snow, hard-nosed, hard-running football.
Well, they were the ones that were all on board getting the big noon kickoff thing going.
Right, so those games are going to be so early, especially on the East Coast, and that's going to be interesting to watch because it's going to be so weird. You're used to, Michigan playing at noon in the snow, in December, but you're going to turn on your TV and you're going to be playing maybe possibly in USC and in California, and that's going to be really interesting for me to watch. And I'm looking at that mostly. And another thing I'm interested too is Brian Kelly and LSU. Do you think he can kind of revive that program after a down season or two?
So
I
LSU,
know that team was unreal with
right?
Coach O and Joe Burrow and
Yeah,
so many players. But
LSU has always been a tricky spot because Louisiana kind of gets forgotten about as a athletics hotbed in a way.
it sure is. Yeah.
Because usually what happens is if you're any good, you end up going to either say in Alabama or really the main pipeline actually is your Texas schools for Louisiana, let alone Texas, right? But Baylor, Tech, A&M, TCU for a while had a lot of guys coming in from Louisiana and New Orleans. And it's tough. I mean, LSU, if there's ever a school, to be honest with you, that NIL is going to work well with, it's going to be LSU because, I'm going to use this guy as an example because I know they are pumping in money, but, Raising Cane's and their founder, right, they started, his first location was at LSU. He went to LSU. Stuff like that I think could help. It's going to be tough this first year, I think, for him. He's come out of the gates firing. I don't know if strong's the right term, but certainly firing.
Is he gonna bring that accent with him?
I hope not. But it's tough. I mean, he is going to. And this is not. I don't mean to put this as a slight towards Notre Dame, but given the climate that it is now, this is his toughest task that he's had yet. What was nice about Notre Dame is the fact that it was an independent, obviously. Still is an independent. But pieces were in place when he got there. It wasn't like Notre Dame was completely in shambles the way LSU is in shambles. And maybe that's just more of a positive at that point for Notre Dame. Nick, you would be more apt to speak on when he exactly came in, a decade now ago at Notre Dame, decade plus. So, but that being said, it's a tough spot. Like I said, I mean, Louisiana's recruits now, if you're high enough, you're going out of state. That's the way it's been for a little bit now. I mean, that being said, LSU is still one of the premier athletic departments, period, end of discussion in the country, right? I mean, LSU, to me, when I hear LSU, I think baseball, I think softball still, I think gymnastics, I think basketball. I still think
gymnastics.
Well, sure. But yeah, I mean, in that sense, correct. But TikTok has exposed me to things. I blame Nate.
Go Tigers.
Exactly. But look, LSU, like I said, they're one of the premier still marketing brands in college athletics at the end of the day. So I don't think this year's going to be great. I think they put up fights. Don't get me wrong, but this is definitely more of a project build for Brian Kelly than it is an immediate plug and play build.
The only thing I'll say on it, I am going to be rooting for LSU this year because I'm going to be rooting for LSU and Notre Dame because I want to see them play a big game at the end of the year. So
yeah. So I'll leave the camera on you, Nick, for that. Then obviously first year head coach with Freeman at Notre Dame. But one of the guys that was touted as being potentially one of the next great college football coaches potentially in the pipeline. Kudos to Notre Dame. They didn't lose hardly anybody in the transfer portal when Kelly left. They were able to keep the recruits that they had coming in. To me, they are, at least to me, I don't know how you would feel. I don't know how Nate would feel. To me, they are that fourth team, de facto fourth team in the college football playoff, where I see them probably being the 2 or 3 in all honesty at the end of the year.
Yeah, I mean, this is a huge game to start the season, that's for sure. I mean, talk about Marcus Freeman, his first 2 games, playing in a BCS Bowl and now playing at his alma mater and at Ohio State in week 1. So there's a lot of pressure, no doubt. I mean, obviously I think there's more pressure on Ohio State to get this win. Notre Dame has nothing to lose. I mean,
sure.
No one believes right now that they're even going to win. I
feel like I'm one of the only people who does in a weird way.
Yeah, I mean, it's just you're so used to Notre Dame, and they don't win these type of games. And when they do win these games, there's all these excuses, like because of Clemson, that they got the big win over Clemson a couple years ago. And Trevor Lawrence didn't play that game, so it's like it took a little bit away from it, but it was still the big win over Clemson. They don't win these big games. Been a fan for a while now. Whether it was the Florida State game way back, the Miami game, just think of the top ahead. And then, of course, the playoff games against Alabama, and Clemson in the ACC championship game that one year. So they lose them all. So you hope they see them play well. I'm a little nervous about their quarterback situation. They do got a quarterback coming in next year, so it's going to be tough.
That's been their situation post Brady Quinn, though.
Yeah.
In a way.
Yeah.
As much not a knock on Tommy Rees or Ian Book, but I mean,
it was nice that Tommy Rees stayed as offensive coordinator too, as well. So,
he was the guy I thought would get that coaching job. To be honest,
as much as I would like to see him win this game, I am not betting that. Whatever it is, plus you said 14. I think it's 17 now.
If it jumped like that in the matter of a week, then
yeah,
I'm not
touching it because
that's a lot of money. Obviously, we're not a gambling podcast, but that's a lot of money on Ohio State that I'm not too sure should be there.
I could see him winning this game, but I can also see him getting killed. So,
yeah, it'll be an interesting year. Do you think that we'll have an announcement for them by the end of we'll call end of college football season that they will be joining a conference, or
that is never going to happen. It's been in the talks for forever. I think even
hypothetically,
even when we get to the conferences where maybe there is only two conferences, maybe there is just the SEC and the Big Ten, and there's a West, a Central, and East division in those two conferences. I still think Notre Dame will be independent. They're so valuable. They're in the driver's seat. They need the conferences to beg for them to come. As much as they haven't won anything in the last, 4 decades.
1988.
4 decades, whatever it's been. They're still Notre Dame. Notre Dame puts together an undefeated team. They're in that playoff. No matter how many times they get destroyed in a BCS Bowl, if they go undefeated, they're in the playoffs. And that's just the expectations of that program.
Realistically, this year, what do you think? Because I do think they're college football playoff material.
Yeah, they actually have a not as easy of a schedule as they usually do, but I'm going to learn a lot on Saturday, that's for sure. It's just tough because it is the first game, and if they do lose, they're going to have to probably win out to make the playoffs. So I think they can make a BCS Bowl. I don't know if they're going to make the playoffs.
All right.
I think they could be like 10-2 or 9-3, and that's not going to get it done.
Very
9-3,
true.
they won't even be in a BCS Bowl. 10-2, they might.
Very true. Quick notes, I guess, on Syracuse at this point. Look, I'm being honest. I don't know what to make of this season, to be completely honest with you. I could see this team going 8-4, no problem. I could see this team going 4-8, no problem.
Right.
I don't think a lot of it's going to come down, in all honesty, on Garrett Schrader. I think we know what he is at this point. Nothing wrong with it. But as I call it, he has the same moxie as Eric Dungy in a way, just without the arm that Dungy had, which even then we know we all kind of would talk down on to certain ends every now and then. But, Sean Tucker's back. Not enough spotlight on him, unfortunately, still. He's my Heisman hopeful. But, yeah, I mean, you mentioned Dino. This is the make or break year at this point.
Even if we thought it was last year.
It's got to be the make or break year for Dino.
We really thought it was last year, but
yeah, I don't know. I will give Syracuse credit. You look at the.
You're giving them credit for what?
You look at the whole. You look at the whole rankings of college football. They're in the top 100.
Okay.
At 89.
Isn't there like only 150 teams in college?
There is 131.
Oh my!
All right, hold on. Do we have guesses as to
which one did you say they are? 89.
They're 89. Do we have guesses as to who number 131 is?
Oh man,
I don't know, Texas Southern or something.
Okay.
I don't know. That's a good guess. I like that guess.
That's who you're going with. You're doubling down.
Yep.
Sorry, we're looking for UMass.
Oh.
Really?
Yep.
They're terrible.
Amherst?
No, just regular UMass. Texas Southern. Where is Texas Southern? Oh, I have to go fishing for them. Where are they?
Control F or something there, Paul?
Oh my good God, where are they?
You rank better than Syracuse.
There's no way they're top 50.
What is their projected win total, Syracuse? They do that?
I don't see them. Where is Texas Southern? Who knows? I don't have a projection for them.
What do you think they're going to do? 4-8.
I'd be pretty satisfied, honestly, at 6-6.
Oh.
Which is awful, but I think even then that might be enough to get Dino fired. So I don't know. The defense has a lot of pro talent kind of fishing around it as it usually does. But there are some portions of it like I'm not too sure what the linebacking core is going to do. The secondary is good but very young overall. The D line's going to be stout in all honesty. I think that's a very good defensive line. Their offensive line's going to be improved. I hope it's as improved as I think it is. So who knows?
What about against Louisville this Saturday?
Loss?
Hasn't Louisville been terrible?
Yeah, I mean, they've had their ups and downs the past couple of years because they were caught up in the Petrino thing and then their own separate Adidas scandal. So I don't know. Let's look at a couple games though this week. Tomorrow, I'm just highlighting it because it's the first true college game day of the year. I know the guys are going to be at Pitt for West Virginia Pitt Backyard Brawl.
Tomorrow?
Yeah, tomorrow.
There's a college game day tomorrow.
Yeah.
Really?
Pitt sold out the former Heinz Field for a Thursday night game. Obviously, it helps that it's West Virginia and Backyard Brawl, but that's pretty impressive, all things considered. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I like West Virginia, honestly, in that game, to be honest with you. I think West Virginia is going to be a team that I don't think they get to the college football playoff, but I can see them kind of rocking the boat a little bit in the Big 12.
I can see it. I mean, I don't know who Kenny Pickett's backup was, so.
And they're without Whipple. Yeah, remember, the offensive coordinator that was there last year is at Nebraska now. So.
Yeah, I mean, where is it though, Pitt?
Mm-hmm. Pitt.
I say it's college sports I mean, whether it's basketball or football, it's pretty much the same. It's not easy to win a road game, no matter what team you're playing. So it's gonna be tough, but I agree with you.
Mm-hmm. Nate, any guess?
Yeah, like they may miss Kenny Pickett, but I think they still get over West Virginia, especially the first game at home. I think you get behind those fans at former Heinz Field, and I think they take care of West Virginia.
Yeah, what's the stadium now?
It's Mara Health or some shit. I don't know. All right, let's take
There they do that to Heinz ketchup.
Let's take a look at a couple of the Saturday games that are ranked squads against ranked squads. Cincinnati's at Arkansas, 23 versus 19.
Yeah, what are your thoughts on Cincy this year?
I don't know. It's weird. A lot of people are down on them.
What are they ranked?
23rd.
Gonna be
23rd in the AP. I don't know. I'm going Arkansas in this game, but I mean, that's going to be a tight game, I think. I mean, Luke Fickell has that defense pretty much the same as it was last year. So
Is Arkansas ranked?
yeah, 19th.
19.
Yeah. I'm a big Sam Pittman guy, so I'm going Arkansas.
It's hard to go against Cincinnati unless they're playing against Alabama.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they're today's Central Florida, so I got Cincinnati in this game.
Yeah, I'll go Arkansas. Without Desmond Ridder, I think it's tough out the gate without your quarterback. Going reverse in what I just said in the last game. Harder for Cincinnati.
Number 5 Notre Dame at number 2 Ohio State.
Just pass.
Just say Notre Dame.
I'll say Notre Dame, but
Good man.
it's gonna be a high.
I'm saying Notre Dame as well. So
You're actually
I'm with you.
saying that with confidence.
Yep.
Okay, I'll take the Buckeyes.
Okay. And the last one, number 11 Oregon at number 3 Georgia. Technically neutral site, but it's at Atlanta, so it might as well just be an outright road game for Oregon.
Yeah.
I'm going Dogs, by the way.
Yeah. As much as I would like to go Ducks, but I am gonna go Dogs. I think they're loaded again.
All right.
Yep, Dogs too.
Dogs. All right. So that's college football. Obviously, we'll circle back a little bit and recap a couple of the games next week, but it's pretty much what we're looking at for the 2022 season, more or less. It sucks that there's not a lot more on-field stuff to preview because a lot of the stuff is just off the field with athletic departments and media and the unfun business stuff like that. So, all right, the NFL, it's almost back.
Preseason's over.
Preseason's over. Final cuts have been done / are being done. So here's the thing, and it's a discussion that I think some people have had, and I know on other podcasts here we've had it, but it seems weird how the NFL this year is kind of like we know what 3 teams for sure seem to be the go-tos, and they're all in the AFC, and it seems to be the race is going to be there, and the NFC's a bit more wide open. And it's interesting because I feel like there's a lot more dark horses kind of lingering in the AFC than there are in the NFC. Unlike college football, there's not a ton of exactly off-the-field stuff to discuss with the NFL. That kind of all happened last year. New TV deals or streaming deals as well were kind of done within that realm. Felt like a lot of the main moves involved Joe Buck going to ESPN in that sense. So, other than that, it was kind of a ho-hum offseason for the NFL. Your typical stuff for them, a couple domestic violence arrests, a couple sexual assault investigations. My Washington Commanders are still technically under a federal investigative scope, so all is right in the world.
Carson Wentz is there now.
But yes, Carson Wentz. But that being said, I feel like the bright spots are probably on your guys' teams, right? Obviously Buffalo, and we'll talk about them, but the Giants' future is finally, it seems to be getting figured out now that the Gettleman regime is out the door. So, which is a positive for a change. Anyway, the NFC, a lot of the typical, stalwarts still kind of hanging around, right? Brady, Rodgers, those two obviously take the headlines, right? Is what it is. But, to me, the NFC, I kind of think you're going to see the better teams probably come from the West in the end. I really am a big fan of the 49ers defense this year. Obviously, their offense is sustainable. It's not great, but not bad. Sustainable. I think the Cardinals, if they can stay healthy and Kingsbury and Kyler can kind of put together a whole season, that's going to be a frightening thing to watch. Obviously, the Rams are defending Super Bowl champions. A lot of pieces gone, but you're able to keep together what is a de facto core. I think the only team out west that really I don't trust at all, obviously for obvious reasons, is Seattle. So it's kind of the way I look at it. Obviously, the East, bit of a mess. Myself and Nick can obviously attest to that. But, the North, not sold on the Packers. South, not sold on the Bucks.
Are you sold on the Saints?
It's a bit more wide open there. I don't know if I'm necessarily sold on the Saints. This is at the South. I mean, I think you're going to get people beating up on each other more this year than anything else. It's a crapshoot to me. The only team I don't think so do anything in the South, to be honest, is Atlanta. But, to me, they're not as bad as Seattle, but they're in that same boat as Seattle at that point. Carolina's a team that's going to be interesting. I think you're going to get a lot of MF, Baker Mayfield type stuff this year. Their defense is bend but not break. Yeah. Whereas the Saints defense is certainly a better one, and their offense is kind of like the bend not break style. The NFC, that's the way I look at it. And the AFC to me is just it. As much as it is a 3-horse race, I do think you got a couple dark horses kind of linger in the shadows. Obviously, Buffalo, and we'll talk about them obviously more here in a minute. But and it's justifiable of them. They didn't really lose anybody. They just kind of reloaded, and the one obvious offseason thing with them with Matt Ariza and the sexual assault investigation that he's under. They cut the losses quick.
Yep,
all things considered. So that's not gonna linger the way that they potentially could have done it, the way the Browns did it with Deshaun Watson. So, and even then, the AFC East this year, I think the only teams you might see kind of poke any sort of, poke a bear like the Bills necessarily, but maybe the Patriots, maybe the Dolphins, depending upon kind of how Tua does with Tyreek there and how that offense kind of flows. in the North, I mean, we aren't really talking too much about it, but Cincinnati and Baltimore are probably going to be really tough still. Pittsburgh is going to be competitive, but I'm not sold on them. I just there's
They'll be frisky.
there's too much question marks with me with the Steelers, to be honest. Just they didn't do anything with that offensive line in the offseason. And that's a key part in it. Obviously, there's too much stuff going around the Browns where I think either the locker room's going to band together or the pressure's just going to get them cracked to the point they aren't going to do anything. You look out west. Actually, I want to do the South first. I know a lot of people are picking the Colts. I don't see the Colts doing much this year, to be honest with you. I'm leaning Texans, to be honest. I think that's a sneaky good team, all things considered. And then out west, I mean, obviously you got the Chiefs, right? And that's understandable, and that's fine. You also have the Chargers. Those are the two teams that a lot of people are pinning as well with the Bills to be in this big three. But to me, I think people are forgetting about the Raiders. Yeah, I mean the Raiders are going to be a good team this year. My only question mark with them is McDaniels actually going to be a good head coach this time around? I don't know about that, but I think the pieces are there for the Raiders.
Don't forget about Denver.
Broncos country, let's ride.
I'm not about Denver.
You're not high at you're not sold on Russell Wilson?
Not so much Russell Wilson, but they didn't do anything to help him out when they brought him in. So
I think we should start with Nate. I mean, this is the highest expectations the Bills have had in definitely my lifetime.
I'll say at least in our lifetimes for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Obviously being the shoe-in favorite for the Super Bowl champions, but I think they're going to take a look at last year's game against the Chiefs, 13 seconds left, and that still sits in the back of Josh Allen's head and the back of Sean McDermott's head. So I think they come out, and we're going to really see next Thursday night when they open up with the Rams. If they come out flat, I think it's going to be a little bit scary, but I don't expect them to. Look at last week. I mean, I know it's the preseason, but week 2, Josh Allen comes out 3 for 3 for 40-something yards, and they score a touchdown on that drive, and I think that offense is ready to go. Like you said, Paul, not much has changed. Addition of Von Miller really is, in my mind, the biggest real change, and there's not a ton else. You lose a guy like Cole Beasley, but they've restocked and reloaded in terms of wide receiver as well. So I look for the Bills to be kind of an offensive juggernaut, but it's going to be a little bit scary at first, especially with Tre'Davious White being announced to the PUP list yesterday. He'll miss the first 4 weeks. So they really don't have – they have a couple young corners in Dane Jackson, Kyrie Elam, their first-round pick. So I think the secondary is going to struggle a little bit earlier. Poyer's a little bit banged up too early in this preseason. So I think they could struggle in the secondary, but I still think that offense could easily put up 30 points a game, and it's tough to lose games in the NFL when you can do that. Right. Outscore your opponents.
I got to ask you, more nervous for the Dolphins or the Patriots?
I don't know. Everyone talks about the Dolphins for the last, 5 years,
right,
about them being good, and so not a lot scares me there. Tua's already kind of a little bit banged up. Waddle's a little bit banged up already. The Patriots, on the other hand, can always scare you, especially with Bill Belichick at the helm. He can take nothing out of something and make it something. But Mac Jones, with that arm, I just don't think he has enough arm strength to be a good quarterback in the NFL. So I think they could probably middle to, and get in the playoffs. I would not be surprised at all if they make the playoffs.
What scares you as a Bills fan more? Because this is the way I kind of view it. The Patriot offense or the Dolphin defense?
I would say the Dolphin defense, but Josh Allen goes unbelievable against them whenever they play. Byron Jones is gone. Now he's on the Cowboys again, right? He went back, right?
I think so.
So they lose that. They lose him there. That's a big piece of their secondary. So probably the Dolphins defense, just because the Patriots offense doesn't scare me too much. Damian Harris is a really good running back, and they're good on the offensive line too, especially under Belichick. So that could scare me a little bit, but probably the Dolphins defense, Paul, to answer your question.
And then the one team, obviously, in the NFC East that we didn't touch on, another New York team with, the Jets. But I don't think they're going to be good this year in that sense. But they're going to be pesky. Salah's got those guys fired up even in the preseason. That defense actually was a decent fantasy waiver wire flyer by the end of the year last year at certain points, depending upon matchups. That offense has improved. I would prefer that Zach Wilson be at the helm of it, not Joe Flacco, but it is what it is at this point.
He won't be out that long, I don't think.
No, but if it was a full year of Zach Wilson, I could see the Jets kind of lingering a little bit more than what I think will actually happen.
You'd like to see him get off to a good start.
Right.
I think Zach Wilson has the most potential out of him, Tua, and Mac Jones. I think out of those three, Zach Wilson, he might not be the best quarterback
Yeah,
right now,
Well,
but I think he has the most potential.
yeah, I mean, I think part of it too, though, is only because we just don't have the notebook that we do on him the way that we do with Tua or Mac Jones.
Yeah, just
In
looking at
that
arm
sense.
strength, though, I think that's almost one of the biggest things in a quarterback you can find.
Yeah, I mean,
Mac Jones and Tua just don't really have. the arm
well, Tua, I agree more within the Mac Jones one, only because Tua gets sketchy with his lofts. Mac's football IQ is pretty good that he doesn't put himself in those spots.
strength. Right.
And I don't know. I'd rather. I guess it's comparing apples to oranges. I'd rather have Mac Jones kind of chooching it downfield than Tua in that sense. But anyway, let's shift focus to the other New York team, Nick. That'd be your Giants. Obviously, you mentioned, right? Get the Gettleman regime out. Brian Daboll's in. Gonna bring some of the stuff he had going with the Bills to New York here. Obviously, I wouldn't say expectations are high, but this is definitely the true Danny Jones do or die year with the Giants. Hopefully the pieces around him this year stay healthy and kind of stay in place. A lot of question marks kind of surround Saquon's future as well with the team. But that being said, I do think there's some positive light. I know a lot of people have them and the Commanders kind of pinned to finish 3-4 in the division, where do I see that probably happening? Yeah. But I could see a way that they both can kind of not shock the world, but at least be really competitive enough to really rattle the division up a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, you can't look at the Giants and not think of question marks. Saquon Barkley, whether it's Thibodeau getting hurt.
I forgot about that too, by the way.
Their offensive line is. I mean, they drafted some offensive line last few years, but let's see if they pan out. And of course, bring in a new GM and head coach from the Bills. Obviously, we mentioned Dino Babers, his make or break year. This is Daniel Jones's make or break year, and he's got the as they say the QB whisperer, in Dable. We'll see what happens. Obviously, I don't want to be taken out of context here. I think Daniel Jones and Josh Allen are similar type of quarterbacks.
No, they are. I was actually about to bring that up, the fact that they're similar builds.
I'm not saying they're the same. Josh Allen is definitely more skilled than Daniel Jones as of right now, but and probably will always be. But they're similar type quarterbacks, so it's a quarterback that Dable can definitely work with. So it's intriguing to see how he does, with the young receivers like Tony and, obviously Galladay was on the team last year, even though it didn't seem like he was. And then you got Saquon. He's got some weapons on this team, so you can't really use that as an excuse for Daniel Jones this year. So it's going to be interesting how Dable works with them. Obviously, there's always, the question mark of, sure, Dable's this great offensive coordinator, but is he a head coach? It takes a certain skill type to be a great head coach in this league, and we've seen great offensive and defensive coordinators, but they don't pan out as head coaches. So Josh McDaniels is one of those guys.
Well, I'll say this in regards to Dable, because he obviously comes from the McDermott tree. But there are a couple other guys too in this realm to me that really stand out. I know we mock him a little bit, but a guy like Kyle Shanahan, Dable to me kind of fits this mold. I mentioned obviously McDermott, Robert Saleh is another one. I think Mike McDaniel in Miami is going to be like this. Ron Rivera is like this as well to me. But the guys who are players coaches at the pro level for football are the ones to me that always tend to do, at very least, decently well.
Yeah, look at Vrabel.
Right. The guys who are kind of like the dog mentality, right, who do have play. I mean, the guys I mentioned all really outside, I guess, McDaniel, have some sort of playing experience to some end. Whereas you'll get the college level, what makes a good head coach typically is more recruiting than anything else, right? Now, you have a couple of like hybrids in there like Lane Kiffin, But you look at guys like Saban, right? Guys like Dabo. Those guys recruit well. That's what makes them really good head coaches at the end of the day. It tends to be like your coordinators behind the scenes at the college level who are, what really makes things churn. Whereas at the pro level, it really does come more down to the head coach than it does the coordinator. So should be interesting stuff there, obviously. But I don't think it's out of context. I am with you. It was one of the things I mentioned, right? So when you said that, like I was going to bring it up, but Daniel Jones and Josh Allen are they are pretty much the same build. I think Josh Allen is more muscular, more thicker in that sense than Daniel Jones, but
Yeah, he's a lot more athletic.
But to that end, I mean, you're right. I mean, if there is a guy to come in and probably get the most out of Daniel Jones at this point, it probably is Brian Dable. I can't.
They do have that winnable division.
Right. I mean, I chuckle at the amount of people who outright say it's Dallas's division when, to me, it's actually Philly's division. To be completely honest with you, in my mind, but.
Nick, do you think
Yeah.
that Daniel Jones has a short leash with Tyrod Taylor at the helm, or
Tyrod got hurt.
no? I know he's not that hurt. He's not significantly
Oh,
hurt. He made
okay.
the team. They don't have another quarterback on the roster. They cut Davis Webb.
The goal.
I do think that. I think
So if Daniel Jones comes out first 4 weeks and he struggles, and
Yeah, like,
they're looking
they're-
at 1-3 over
And-
4, do you think they maybe go to Tyrod?
Well, Tyrod's also. I mean, Dable has worked with Tyrod before, obviously.
I think it would be a longer leash than that. I really think it would be like week 8 if they're like 1-7.
Yeah.
0-8. It just goes absolutely disaster.
Right.
I think they'll give it to Tyrod, but I think
about
they're going to give him a decent. So a lot of people are thinking. I see what you're saying. A lot of people are saying like 5 weeks. We'll see what happens, but I think it's going to be like half a season.
Okay.
I'd about to say I don't even think you could do the plug at like 0-4. I mean, the first month of the NFL season in a lot of ways is just coin tosses anyway.
Yeah, I guess it depends on individual play at that point, right? But
Now, to Nick's end, I'm with Nick. If it gets to a point where it's like
It's just
you're like 0-7 or whatever, then yeah, I mean there's probably something else going on here that you really need to. Or to that end, if it's 0-7 but he still is playing, a caliber thing, maybe it's you're reevaluating something else as opposed to Daniel Jones. I think a lot of it comes down to his actual individual performance, not so
It's
much.
just nice to have a
yeah.
decent backup. I mean, Mike Glennon was terrible.
Yeah, I mean my team's cursed. Obviously I know we're up here in New York, but being a Washington fan, it's just been rough. I mean, we got, Brian Robinson got shot. He's going to be all right, but we're just a cursed franchise at this point with that. So
just got to get rid of Dan Snyder, I think, and that'll
people
all your things.
people make me mad about that. Like I was telling, and luckily, I mean you guys both know Hank, and he's also a Washington fan. And look, we're both in agreement. We're kind of doing the same-ish protest thing in a way. We aren't buying merchandise until he's gone, which doesn't seem like much because people buy stuff anyway, and it goes into his pocket. But like, I don't want to give him any of my money.
Yeah, I respect that. That's what you can do as a fan,
Yeah.
right?
I mean, I'm kind of over it. I mean,
I want you to rank your NFC East quarterbacks right now. You were
like
a
from
West fan,
from
right?
play perspective or from my own personal, like the way I like quarterbacks perspective.
From play. We'll go. We'll be nice here.
So Dak's 1, and that's a hard pill to swallow, but Dak's 1. I think I gotta go Hurts 2 still.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, to me, they're all pretty close together. I'm a Daniel Jones believer. I mean, that's why I want Washington to draft.
You're a Wentz fan though.
I am still a Wentz fan. I probably go Wentz 3, Daniel Jones 4, but like to me, they're all pretty close. I mean, they're all
I'm curious. What's the personal one?
personal. Honestly, might be Hurts. I'm a big Jalen Hurts guy, but I also am a Dak guy. I loved Dak in college. Dak really is like a guy our age that I could have I remember watching him at Mississippi State, like doing our shady backwoods internet bookie stuff at the time, just riding with Mississippi State when they were number 1 for a week with Dak Prescott. So, yeah, but like I said, I mean, I think they're all closer than people think. Like and that's where, to me, like a division like the NFC East gets really interesting, is because everything is kind of close together. I mean, I think a lot of the reason why people are kind of putting down the Giants and putting down the Commanders is just because, well, that's what we've done the past 2 years. So it just makes perfect sense. When actuality, I really do think they're all pretty closer than people actually probably realize. And look, that kind of plays into the whole entire like, well, they're all bad because the division winner was only 9-8. But I mean, when you spend 6-year games beating up on each other year in, year out, I mean, I'm being honest. I don't see a way that, say, hypothetically, the Giants go 2-0 against or the Cowboys go 2-0 against the Giants. I don't see that happening. I don't see that happening with any of them. I think they all finish 1-1 with each other on the year. Yeah. Because I think they're so close and so equal that I think you're supposed to see a lot of beating up on each other. I just do. All right, let's just do a quick prediction here. I mean, who do you guys see in the NFL this year? Because, like I mentioned, I think the NFC is a little bit more of a toss-up than the AFC, but the AFC kind of has the dark horses as opposed to the NFC.
Well, you got to like the Cowboys as the favorite.
Nice to see Troy Aikman's here joining us.
Hey, you would like to bet on the Packers, but it's just like you can't anymore.
No.
You just physically, you can't do it.
No.
So, I don't know. It's tough. You can't go with the Rams. You can't go against the Rams right now. They're still loaded. I like Rams Raiders. I'm high on the Raiders. Big Raiders guy. Mm-hmm. So, big year for Devontae Adams.
I can only assume where Nate's going to go, so I'm going to go first before we toss it to Nate.
You don't know where I'm going NFC, though.
That's a fair point. But NFC, I'm going 49ers. The defense for me they're an underappreciated defense. They don't get turnovers, but they don't let you score either. And to me, they were able to keep more people on the team than the Rams were. I know the Rams, they still have that core, but, Von Miller's gone, Ramsey's gone. That's tough. Those are tough dudes to replace. AFC, I do want to ride with you on the Raiders. I don't think I can. I think I got to go with a truly early 90s matchup here and go Bills and 49ers. That being said, I do like the Raiders, though. I'm with you. I am with you.
I was going to say Boomer would be happy.
So nobody, the Raiders.
Those are the two teams he always took.
Right.
Nobody circles the wagons.
Nobody circles. All right, Nate, go ahead. Your moment in the spotlight.
Yeah, I'll take the Bills in the AFC. We'll move past that quickly. We already talked about that, right?
No, I want Bills Mafia coming out right now. I want you to smash through the desk,
right? I mean, how can you go against them? I mean, like we talked about, haven't lost anybody. They had Von Miller. They had Super Bowl experience.
I know how you can go against them. The Ralph sucks.
The only thing, actually, the biggest thing really is that they lose Dable. And what's the transition going to be like when they bring in Ken Dorsey?
Well, that's
Ken Dorsey's been around that offense, so it should be okay.
Ken Dorsey's already technically on the hot seat, apparently. It's wild.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see with that. But I think in the NFC, I think everyone's silly to doubt Tom Brady. I mean, that division, I think he can waltz through. Not much going on in that division, in my opinion.
Ooh.
And then as long as Tom Brady's playing football, I'll take him.
All right.
I wouldn't sleep on the Bengals or the Chiefs, though, either.
Well, for me, I wouldn't sleep on the Ravens, but,
Oh, yeah, Lamar's come back with a vengeance, especially in the contract year.
I don't know. I look at Lamar as like Dak Prescott. Great quarterback, but I just don't think he can win a Super Bowl.
All right, so that takes care of the podcast for today. Like, share, subscribe, all the fun stuff on YouTube. You can find us on Anchor, Spotify, a couple other major podcasting platforms. Nick, who are you shouting? You gotta figure out the shout-out situation here because you won't be here next week.
That's right. See, anybody's birthday's coming up. It's my Uncle Joe's birthday.
Oh, Uncle Joe.
Next Wednesday, the 7th. Uncle Joe Corsani, Geneva guy.
How's he doing? I haven't seen him in a while.
Yeah, I haven't seen him in a while either. He's doing good. So, yeah, shout out Uncle Joe. Big Raiders guy, so I'm glad I picked him for you.
Yeah. Nate, appreciate hopping on. We might see your face again next week as I search for people to hop on with me. So,
only if I have to, Paul.
Wow. All right, fair enough. Well, I appreciate you hopping on.
Yeah,
always good to have another voice of insight come on here and join us. So appreciate it. All right, and that does it. As I said, We will see everybody next week here. Back to being Tuesday next week, as far as I know. But either way, you'll find us next week. Have an awesome week. Enjoy college football. Enjoy Labor Day. Be safe. Have fun.